Good evening. Welcome to the Cranston City Council regularly scheduled council meeting for the month of November. Today is Monday, November 25th. At this time, can the clerk please take the roll?
Councilman Ferry,
Here.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Present.
Councilman Horian,
Present.
Councilman Donegan,
Present.
Councilman Campiano,
Present.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Present.
Councilman Wall,
Here.
Council Vice President Vargas, Council President Marino.
Present. Next this time, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Next, we have the approval of minutes. At this time, I'd ask for a motion to take the approval of minutes as a block.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horian,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano, Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Now, and entertain a motion to approve the block.
Motion to approve.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Horian,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, we have public acknowledgements and commendations. At this time, I will turn the floor over to Councilman Donegan.
Thank you, Council President. This evening, I'd like to recognize for 29 years of service to the City of Cranston as an award-winning educator and theater director at Cranston High School West, Miss Nancy Vituli. 5,000, 2,500, 600 minutes. How do you measure a year? Well, what about 15,242,400 minutes? That's 29 years, which is the amount of time that Nancy Vituli dedicated to our community as an educator at Cranston High School West. Born and raised on Sprague Avenue in the Stadium neighborhood, Nancy, or Mom, went from Cranston East to NYU, studying and graduating from the Tisch School of Arts prior to receiving a master's in education from Adelphi. After starting her teaching career in Queens, New York, she moved back to Cranston in 1990 after starting a family. Since 1990, Nancy has been an integral member of our arts community in Cranston. In 1993, she helped start the Cranston Community Theater, a summer theater company for residents of all ages and abilities who perform throughout the city and the state. In 1995, following in the footsteps of her mentor and Cranston East teacher Don Babbitt, Nancy would join the faculty at Cranston High School West, where she would continue to teach until retiring at the end of this past school year. In addition to teaching, she was an award-winning, or she helped run the award-winning Cranston West Theater Program, directing productions in the fall and the spring. So how do you measure a career that spanned 29 years, touching 4 separate decades? In trophies, 11 times Cranston West productions were selected to represent Rhode Island at the New England Drama Festival. In Disney Channel appearances, she made one of those in 2017 when Cranston East and Cranston West were awarded a grant to produce High School Musical. In times you've fallen off the Cranston West stage, I think we've probably all lost count. Golden Apple Awards, won one of those in 2018, or awards from the Kennedy Center. In 2019, you were one of just 10 educators in the entire country that was awarded the prestigious Stephen Sondheim Inspirational Teacher Award. So how do you measure a career? In lives touched? That number simply cannot be quantified. The fact is, the impact you've had on others is immeasurable. For decades, you have inspired others to see the best of themselves in the classroom, on the stage, and in life. As the opening lines of Pippin break the fourth wall and call upon the audience to join us, you have called upon so many to join in on the magic in the celebration of art, and humanity. You've got magic to do, and you've done it for 29 years, inspiring and touching more lives than anyone could ever count. 15,242,400 minutes. How do you measure a career? While one citation from the Cranston City Council certainly cannot do justice, it is our way of saying thank you. Come on up.
Initiating the citation, and I'd like to thank the entire city council for the recognition. When you told me about this, I was honored, but very embarrassed. I really didn't want to come here because what my instant reaction is that there were so many teachers that came before me and so many teachers that have worked alongside me that have dedicated time. And I just want to share this recognition with all of them because they're really amazing people. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Donegan. Thank you, Ms. Vituli. You raised him right. At this time, we'll move on to public hearings and public comment. For members of the public in chambers and on Zoom, please, if you are here to speak on any docketed matters, please keep your comments limited to 4 minutes, and please state your name and address for the record. We will begin first with in chambers. Thank you.
Let's kick off tonight. My name is Pat Ford. I'm here acting in my capacity as Executive Director of Libertarian Mutual Aid. We run a project called the Water Project. We deliver bulk, clean, bottled water to nearly 35 locations around central and northern Rhode Island, primarily focusing on homeless encampments, meal kitchens, as well as, I'll say, at the sidewalks of a variety of cities, including yours. I'm speaking tonight, obviously, about the ordinance of the City Council, something entitled, the law entitled Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare. And this is called Offenses Against Public Peace and Decency. If there is an offense against public peace, it's this ordinance. If there's an attack on fundamental decency, it's this audience. I will ask, since my comments are, of course, are to be directed to the City Council Chair. City Council Chair, in the event of homelessness, how many beds and how many facilities are available here in Cranston for people on the street?
Mr. Ford, this is not a back and forth discussion, public comment. You have your 4
Actually,
minutes to make.
legally,
Excuse me,
you're
Mr.
allowed to
Ford, I'm
answer
speaking
questions.
at this time. If we can be respectful of one another. It is your opportunity to be heard for 4 minutes. It is not a back and forth discussion.
Actually,
Thank you.
legally, you are able to answer the question if you so desire. I'm going to assume, based on the behavior of the city over the last few months with regards to this, and going back more than a year or two, with your, if you will, often failed attempt at, if you will, mitigating, trying to be polite here, panhandling, I have to assume that the city of Cranston has essentially declared war on the homeless. As someone who provides services on a purely voluntary, and I want to emphasize that with regard to state employment and a lot of the big not-for-profits, voluntary, it's a powerful word. I think people in the community should embrace that. And I also know that there's a variety of community agencies that are acting independently of the city. But for the city to, and if you read, if you will, the ordinance, to politely say, you know, we will evict, but at the same time message to the public that there is in fact no criminal potential, no fines, is disingenuous, again, to keep it polite. Because as we say, that's balderdash. The real and imagined potential for conflict of a physical nature when you engage with folks who find themselves homeless, as you attempt to take whatever few belongings they have and trash them, because simply they need to exist, is disgusting. We went through this a few months ago. The city council chose not to pass the ordinance. An executive order, I guess, was attempted. That didn't, well, and here we are again. If you're going to label this law, at least have the decency to call it something like Cranston doesn't want homeless people on our pure and perfect little municipal streets and sidewalks. We don't want to be confronted with the reality of a variety of complex situations, whether it be poor decision-making by the individual, which is very often not the case, or the reality of the economics here in the state of Rhode Island, as government has constantly interfered with everything from zoning to housing, and then spent millions of dollars on agencies like Crossroads who provide little or no service. There's plenty of blame to go around, but this is certainly not the solution. There's a saying in the homeless movement, just because we can't, just because you take our tent doesn't mean we can afford the rent. What's particularly galling in this time of year, Christmas, a variety of religious holidays that celebrate life and redemption, that you would choose again to engage in this. So I'm going to politely ask that this be spiked tonight, spare the community the ordeal of having to again put on display for the rest of the state and even parts of the nation their lack of morality and their lack of caring. Spike it now, kill it, and come up with real solutions as opposed to politically driven rhetoric and hate. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to be heard on any docketed matters this evening?
Hi, good evening. My name is Jessica Salter, 6 Vaughn Lane. I am here to speak on the same ordinance as the previous speaker. I am also an employee at Amos House, one of the state's largest service providers to the demographic and the people that are at the heart of this terrible ordinance. I urge you to think with compassion about how we might best approach this very real problem in the state of Rhode Island. When you're thinking about destroying these encampments and removing folks, and I read the changes in the ordinance, and I see that it does say that they need to engage with local nonprofits and service providers to see if they can be placed elsewhere before the encampment is broken up. But I can tell you that the first question that you need to ask is, are there enough shelter beds in the city of Cranston to shelter all of these individuals before you remove that encampment? And without you having to spend too much energy doing that, I can answer that for you. And the answer is no. And as the second largest city in the state of Rhode Island and the geographic center of this state, you can also ask yourself, are there enough shelter beds in the state of Rhode Island to shelter these individuals that we are intending to move? And before you spend too much time on that, I'll help you out there too. There are not. Since before the pandemic, we have had such a drastic increase in the number of unhoused individuals in this state that is mind-blowing. We have had, pre-pandemic, we had roughly about 1,000 unhoused individuals on the street at any given time. Now we have about 2,500. We all know that the number of shelter beds, the number of emergency housing situations have not increased at a level that allows us to care for these individuals. And so, good or bad, they have come up with ways to care for themselves. And I am not in any way arguing that tent encampments are the right answer for anyone, because they are not. It is not anything we would want for any of our loved ones or ourselves. But until we can offer someone something better, we need to think long and hard about the choices that we're making to destroy property and remove people from what minor sense of safety that they might have. Right now, the state of Rhode Island uses something called the coordinated entry system, which allows people to get on a list to access shelter beds in the state of Rhode Island. So in order to access shelter, you have to call, go through an intake process, and have your level of vulnerability assessed and be added to a list with the hopes that you can access a shelter bed when it comes open. And right now, we're in such a shortage of shelter beds that the turnover is just too slow. Amos House is running the state's largest family emergency shelter. We have 57 families and about 160 children living in one single facility right now. And right now on the coordinated entry list, there are 60 families living in places not meant for human habitation. That's cars, and that are these tents that you're talking about. And not all of them live in Providence, not all of them live in Woonsocket. Many of them are Cranston residents. I know because I know many of them that live in our family emergency shelter. So I encourage you to do away with this ordinance. There are so many better ways to be helping the individuals that need this help, and none of them are a part of this ordinance. Thank you.
Drake Patton, 684 Natick Avenue. I want to acknowledge Jess Salter's comments. I have 3 items tonight, and one of them was regarding this ordinance. I think she just said it beautifully. I would only say that I've spoken on this before, and the thing that I asked you to think about is how close any of us might be to being homeless. And I think one tragedy, one unexpected thing can happen in any of our lives. I'm sure some people are exempt from that, but I would say a lot of people that we know, the people we are, it's not that safe and secure. So in the compassion that Jess Salter talked about, I think it's that self-reflection that we all need to do. And there are professionals in the state who are working in this field who I think would be great advisors. And we can do better. I know we can do better. The 2 other items I just wanted to briefly touch on tonight. I fully support the independent investigation of Mayor Hopkins. And I do that because it is not something that's private enough that it doesn't involve our city. People in this room are named in that suit. And that is concerning. And it becomes more concerning, item 3, when we look at the legal expenses that were put into the agenda tonight. There are 2 bills that are paying or being paid, have been paid to defend the Hopkins broccoli suit. Those are city resources. We are taxpayers. We need to know what's going on. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jacob Kramer. I live at 416 Broadway in Providence. I'm an outreach volunteer with the House of Hope, and I'm an MSW student at Rhode Island College. So like many people, I think like most of us in this room probably, I've been aware of homelessness as a problem in our society, but I'd never really paid very much attention to it. I had kind of looked the other way. And I'm not proud of that, but that's just how it was. And then I began doing outreach work with House of Hope, and I really got to see it up close. And the situations that people are in Rhode Island are dire. People are living in places that are unfit for human habitation. They're living in tents they get flooded. They're living outside. They're exposed to the elements. They're conditions you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. And so whatever discomfort that you feel when you see someone out there panhandling, or you see someone living in a tent, maybe they're dirty, whatever discomfort you feel in yourself, they are experiencing something that is so profoundly painful and difficult that I think it takes a lot to really observe that and try to empathize with people and not be afraid of them and not try to punish them. And these are people who are just like you and me, as the previous speaker said. Thousands and thousands of people are one little accident away from becoming homeless. They are our neighbors, they're Rhode Islanders, and rather than punishment, they deserve help. And I'd like to say a little bit just on the topic of punishment. So usually we punish people when they commit a crime, and when someone commits a crime, that means they've done something to us and we want some kind of retribution from them, right? They owe us something. And those, like a so-called criminal, will owe something to society. So I think we should do a little thought experiment about where is the crime, right? What do these people owe us as Rhode Islanders? So if someone came up to you and they had like an empty plate and they said, I'm hungry, right? Would you then take the plate from them and say, you owe me dinner? right? Or if someone came up to you and it was raining out and all they were wearing was a t-shirt and they said, I need a coat. Would you go up to them and say, give me that t-shirt, you owe me a raincoat? It doesn't really make any sense when someone's living outside and they say, I need a place to live, and you say, I'm taking your tent and you owe me $100. Like, where's the crime? It doesn't make sense. It's totally reversed. And so I think this time of year, I'm also a children's book author, so I'm gonna speak to some stories a little bit. There's the story of the Grinch who stole Christmas, right? That's a story where there's a little reversal, like I was saying. The Grinch goes into people's houses and he takes the presents that belong to the children, right? And so the question is the Grinch the story? Is the Grinch the hero of that story, right? Is he the good guy? And I think if we're all kind of familiar with that, not necessarily. That behavior doesn't make sense. It's not good. It's the opposite of the spirit of the season. But there's some, like good news in that story, which is, in fact, the Grinch is moved by the plight of a little girl, I believe, whose present he steals. And in fact, he changes his heart, and his heart grows 3 times. And that change actually is the heroic act. And so what I ask of you is to be like the Grinch in that regard and to change your hearts. And as the first speaker said, spike this ordinance, get rid of it, and see what we owe to those people who live outside rather than what they owe us. Thank you.
Robert Murray, 21 Garden City Drive in Cranston. Madam Council President, members of the City Council, I rise again this evening to speak in opposition and concern over the Finance Committee resolution relating to the so-called Broccoli lawsuit. As I've said many times, this is a matter in the court system and it should be litigated there without the cloud of a so-called investigation by a partisan body of legislators. The sponsor of this resolution is a practicing attorney familiar with allegations made in court complaints. They are always framed in provocative language that is intended to put the claims in the light most favorable to the plaintiff. The allegations of this lawsuit can be easily distinguished. First is a private business matter, dispute between the mayor and Mr. Broccoli over a car and payment terms. That matter is being considered in the federal district court, and the mayor has his own personal counsel handling that. No city expenses being incurred for those issues. Then there are allegations that arise against certain city departments and a claim filed by Mr. Broccoli to this city council that you denied in July of 2023. Those claims involve certain actions taken by city departments in the normal course of their duties of inspection and enforcement for zoning and land use violations and for the protection of the public safety. Many of those allegations have been reviewed already in 3 different courts in Rhode Island. I commend for your reading the decision of Judge Michael Ford of the Cranston Municipal Court in August of 2023. As you know, Judge Ford was appointed by this city council. He decided against Mr. Broccoli and one of his business entities in his decision. While the version of this resolution on the docket tonight was amended on November 13th at the Finance Committee, this version is nonetheless suspect and unnecessary and should be defeated or tabled. Its wording leaves much to interpretation. Let the litigation unfold in court. Let there be an airing of these issues in accordance with the law and rules of evidence. This so-called independent investigation has partisan tones to it for a lawsuit that revealed itself in the middle of a contested primary contest for the office of mayor. The timing and motives are clearly questionable on the eve of a mayoral debate 2 weeks before the September primary. The primary and general election are over. The voters with full knowledge of the lawsuit and allegations re-elected the mayor. Why in the waning days of this council term are you considering a resolution that will have no force and effect in a few weeks? It's terminology of pursuing an investigation if the allegations of the plaintiff are admitted or proven. I ask, which allegations are we talking about? The complaint has already been answered in court, and some allegations are not disputed, but many have been denied. Your open-ended language seems to leave the issue of an investigation front and center.
The mayor and city officials have denied claims of inappropriate use of city employees and city resources. The mayor has denied the allegations that he ever drove the vehicle in question with the city license plate 30,000 on it. Frankly, this resolution has its seeds in partisan fields, and tonight is another attempt to keep it percolating. It was condemned on its first day as a political hit, and now 12 weeks later, it remains just that. There are many questions about its origins and who knew what when they knew it. Let the matter be handled in court, and if down the road there are issues involving official conduct or duties, then let a future city council make a determination at that time. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Megan Smith. My address is 73 Babcock Street in Providence. I'm an outreach worker with the Rhode Island Street Medicine Program and a professor at Rhode Island College and a colleague of Jacob's who spoke earlier. And I was also here to speak in opposition to the original version of this ordinance, and I don't have a lot new to offer today, so I'll keep my remarks very brief. The reason I walked in late and the reason I'm dressed like this is I just came from outreach and just came from talking with folks who are staying outside, albeit tonight I was mostly in the Providence area, but the same themes that you'll hear from folks staying outside in Providence are the same as from folks staying outside in Cranston. And what really strikes me in coming from that experience and those conversations with people who are staying outside to rereading the mayor's ordinance is just the complete lack of grounding in the reality of people's lives. And just to echo points made earlier, nobody is outside because they want to be outside. Nobody is outside because they are just being oppositional to the society for the sake of it. People are outside because we as a society haven't given them what they need, what they have the right to meet their basic needs. And for those of us who have the privilege of having conversations with people who are staying outside every day, one of the things that will strike many people is just how wise people are. And that shouldn't be surprising, right? Because people with lived experience are always the ones who know the thing best, whether that's a culture or a situation or a city. And I was talking today explicitly with people about what do you think would make the homelessness crisis better? I'm doing some research along those lines. And people have brilliant ideas. People know what they need. And a lot of that comes back down to dignity and collaboration and partnership. And I can't help thinking about how different this conversation could be and this initiative could be if we came at it from a place of how do we engage with this community and have a real paradigm shifting conversation about how do we think about homelessness different as a society, instead of coming at it with the same worn out tropes of, you know, these are other people doing bad things, making bad choices, and we need to get rid of them. We need to invisibilize them, or we need to coerce them somehow into doing what we want them to do. And so I know I said this last time, but I think it bears repeating today, is I would really love to have a really different conversation here. And I truly believe that the people in this room can have that conversation. And I would love to be part of that. And I don't mean to speak for anyone else, but I firmly believe that a lot of the folks who are in this experience right now, who are experiencing homelessness right now, would also love to have that conversation with all of you and with all of us. So I just look forward to a different conversation than one we're having tonight. Thank you.
There being no one else in chambers that wishes to be heard, Tom, is there anyone else on Zoom?
Heidi Levine.
Hi, this is Heidi Levine, 22 West Hill Drive. I would also like to speak against the offenses against public peace and decency ordinance proposal. First, this ordinance is a cruel solution to a self-made problem. This issue is two sides of the same coin. On one side, any opportunity to build middle-class or affordable housing to help alleviate our housing crisis has been struck down and has even been called corporate welfare. And then on the other side, we punish people for being without homes. What a cruel way to treat other human beings. Homelessness in Rhode Island climbed by a staggering 35% in the last year, according to the Public's Radio. We have an immense housing shortage here in Rhode Island, which is the consequence of a significant shortfall of building homes in the state. On a specific note to this ordinance and the verbiage around it, the way this is written would have you operating under the assumption that we even have adequate social programs and resources available to alleviate this problem in the first place. The verbiage used in this ordinance states that DPW would be able to remove any such encampment after contacting and thereby having social services be offered. This is operating under the assumption that any such resources are available in the first place, which there is not enough. There are not enough beds in Cranston specifically, which is a failure on the part of the city as the second largest in the state. Until there are actually enough safe alternatives and places for people to sleep in the city, I ask you to reconsider the cruelty of this ordinance and the very likely unintended consequences. The ordinance would have the city remove the very few earthly possessions that these human beings have and throw them in the trash. This can mean personal identification documents, clothing, shelter, etc. I cannot emphasize enough to the council, we cannot punish our way out of this issue. We must build more housing and adopt a housing first model to address the homelessness crisis that our entire country is experiencing. We need this issue of homelessness to be approached from a proactive angle, not a reactive one. The unhoused are us. They are Americans. They are our neighbors. They are people we know, and they are people who are loved. They're someone's daughter. They're someone's child. We need to treat them as such. So I ask the council to please strike down this proposal and reserve our energy to actually help the homeless people in Cranston. Thank you.
James Brophy. James Brophy, you're in the meeting. James Brophy, you're in the meeting. They seem to be having problems. They're in.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Thank you. It wouldn't unmute. Thanks for your patience. Good evening. My name is James Brophy. I live on the east side of Cranston. I grew up here. I attended Cranston East from 2009 to 2013, and I had Kenneth Hopkins as my world history teacher in the 10th grade. I'm not here to talk about my experience as his former student, though. I'm here to talk about my experience as his constituent, specifically as his constituent who has experienced homelessness. As you've probably guessed, I'm speaking in opposition to the proposal tonight. I could say a lot about my experience of homelessness. I could tell you a great deal about the causes, the exacerbating factors. I could list facts and figures. I could spend my precious time meticulously debunking every NIMBY talking point you've already heard, doubtless more than once. Instead, I'm going to tell you about one of the most terrifying, maddening things about living in precarity. You're invisible. You cease to exist. People don't see you, or if they do, they look straight through you. You are the closest thing to a ghost that can exist, and you're not even dead yet. But of course, this world makes it very clear how eagerly it awaits that too. There is a threshold we do not speak of, but which we all know what it is. And once you're across it, there is no return trip. You are forever considered out of reach of help, of compassion, of humanity, even of touch. You are a ghost whose haunting is both involuntary and resented. This policy that Hopkins is pushing, he sells to you as an exorcism. It's not. It's social murder. Last winter, we had 54 people freeze to death on the streets of this state that we know of. Instead of more housing, we're destroying encampments. Instead of heating stations, we're throwing away people's belongings, including winter garments. Instead of trying to eradicate homelessness, we're trying to eradicate homeless people. When you tell a population, I don't care where you go, just don't come here, knowing full well the hostility that this population faces everywhere else, you're saying, I don't care if you die, just don't do it where I have to look at it. You want their deaths to be as invisible as their lives. But you're worried about needles. Needles and your children, garbage and your neighbors, refuse and our students. What about our students who leave history class and wander around the city at night because they can't go home? What about our neighbors who shiver in tents or cars? Or is it too hard to look at us? I yield my time.
I'm seeing no other public comment this time.
At this time, public comment on docketed matters is now closed. Moving on. Don't have any resolutions this evening. We do have reports of committees. Reporting out of Claims Committee, Councilman Wall.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The Claims Committee did meet on November the 13th, 2024. The claims paid report is in the packet of the members of the council, and I have nothing further to report at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Councilman Ferry as Chair of Safety Services and Licensing Committee.
Thank you, Council President. We have two items on the agenda from the November 13th meeting. The first is a new Class BV license for Blue Awning LLC doing business as Mok Mok Eatery. We had approved this subject to all paperwork and payments being made at the Safety Services meeting. I'd like to have a motion to approve this pending all the finished paperwork.
So moved.
Second.
Any
Any
discussion?
discussion?
Sorry.
That's okay, Councilman Ferry. Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Ryan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. Second, we have Los Homies LLC DBA La Esquima. Again, we approved this at the Safety Services meeting, and I would recommend approving this subject to the finished paperwork.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Ryan, Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
And at this time, I have no further business from the Safety Services Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Ferry. Next, we have Councilman Donegan reporting out as Chair of Finance Committee.
Thank you, Council President. The Finance Committee met on November 13th. Several items passed through committee. The first being resolution authorizing real estate tax abatements as requested by the tax assessor and recommended for approval by the Finance Committee. I'd urge passage.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Ryan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan.
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
The second is resolution authorizing tangible tax abatements as requested by the tax assessor, recommended for approval by the Finance Committee. I'd urge passage.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Ryan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next, we have the consideration of tax interest waiver approvals for the month of October 2024 as recommended by by the city treasurer and recommended for approval by the Finance Committee. I'd urge passage.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Ryan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next, we have a resolution calling for an independent investigation relative to complaint PC 2024-4766, David Broccoli et al. Versus Kenneth Hopkins, the City of Cranston, Anthony Moretti, Paul McCauley, David Rodeo, and Christopher Millay et al. This is sponsored by Council President Marino. This was recommended for approval by the Finance Committee, and I'd urge passage.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? Director Moretti, you wish to be heard?
Please, thank you. Throughout this process, I have remained silent on this resolution intentionally for two reasons. One, I am named in the lawsuit and lawyers advise that I remain silent, even though I know the truth that I did nothing wrong. It frustrates that I can't defend myself. I was hoping that the decency of this city council would prevail to withdraw this misleading and unnecessary resolution. First, let me speak to the resolution. Simply, it is premature and unnecessary. This matter should be addressed only if there are facts of wrongdoing. Anyone can file a lawsuit. We all know that this suit was brought with highly questionable timing and by a claimant that seemed to have issues with the mayor in part by not overlooking tax delinquencies. In the unlikely event that there was any wrongdoing in the job performance of anyone in this administration, the council certainly can act at that time. In the meantime, this resolution only casts a stain on innocent, dedicated, and honest public servants unless they are proven differently in the future. It is unfair and irresponsible to prejudge by publicly casting doubt on these people at this time. Now let's speak of Mayor Hopkins. He has told the truth and welcomes all facts to come out as the lawsuit rolls out. There's been a whole lot of politics played over this matter. As we all know, he cannot adequately defend himself given the circumstances at this time. We all know that Ken Hopkins is a good person. He has dedicated his life to public service as a coach, teacher, council person, and now mayor. He is telling the truth, nothing more and nothing less. I assume that you may be saying that, yes, he is a good man, but this matter has yet to play itself out. This is just fine, but the mayor deserves the benefit of the doubt. At this time, it is not in the best interest of the residents of the city to cast doubt. The city would be better served at that time if concerns actually became a reality. Now let's speak about me. One would be hard-pressed to know me or my actions to be anything but essentially honest. I pride myself in serving in this administration as a person of integrity and one with pure mind and heart. Since day one, I have acted honestly and never of any impropriety. Sure, some may disagree with my opinions, but you all know that my actions have been consistently above board and responsible. There is no reason whatsoever to place my name on this resolution. For that matter, there is no reason to name others in this document for permanent record. Just because someone drafted a lawsuit with my name in it, that does not give you individually, nor this council, the moral right to include me or certain others to be tarnished by this resolution in your actions. Yes, I will take it personally and professionally. That is the only way to see it, as I did nothing wrong whatsoever. If you believe in your heart and mind that you have any doubt that I was involved in any wrongdoing, then vote as it appears you may. If you think otherwise, I respectfully ask you to act appropriately. In summary, this resolution is premature and unnecessary. If any wrongdoing as a result of anyone's employment is determined, the next city council can address it. This resolution at this time is merely to establish a permanent stain on the record and reputations of many innocent people that have given dedicated and honest service to the city of Cranston. We have heard for the past few years that the administration and the city council should get along better. I have no doubt that this action does not demonstrate an olive branch to work cooperatively and in a trustworthy fashion. I would hope that each member of this council realizes the tone that your actions will create. I ask that each of you examine your self-conscious. If you truly believe that the mayor or those named in that politically motivated lawsuit are guilty within reason and common sense, then feel free to move ahead. On the other hand, if you believe that he and the people of his team are likely not guilty of wrongdoing or abuse of their positions, then you may want to reconsider otherwise. Respectfully, you should ask yourself if your support of this resolution is really a reflection of your morals. When all of our collective public service is said and done, is this the legacy that you should leave by casting doubt on innocent people? Yes, you can argue that there are qualifying statements in this resolution, but the reality is that you cannot take back the harm to the perceptions of one's integrity. Is this really necessary to cast public doubt and smear on the people of this or any other administration? This can only open the door to reciprocal actions and serve no good for this community. Lastly, what if the tables were turned? If you had unvalidated assertions against you when you did nothing wrong, only to see your name and honor in the public being attacked for unvalidated allegations? How would you feel? How would you feel if that was done to your husband, your wife, your mom, dad, or children? Happy Thanksgiving to you and your families. I hope that you and your loved ones are blessed with much peace and love. Thank you.
Do any council members wish to be heard at this time? Last and final call from council members. Councilman Paplaskas.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll be voting against this resolution tonight. You know, I wasn't even thinking of the perspective that Director Moretti brought up tonight, but being in his shoes, he must feel like it's a hostile workplace coming here and being named in this. So I appreciated his comments. But I'll be voting against this tonight. Like I said before, this is, I feel, the highest caliber of political theater. This falls off the table in 4 weeks. It's going to be a moot point. When this council ends, it's just a resolution. I think this is a civil matter and it should be heard in court where it is now. And if any wrongdoing is found after that fact, the council at that time has every right to take it up. But I think this is premature at this time. So I'll be voting against it. Thank you.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you, Madam President. I have two issues with this. One that I brought up the last time we talked about it, and it's the use of the word admissions. I think that that is a loophole because there is no defining admissions in this. And we all know that when you go to court, there'll be certain admissions that you could, it could be a procedural admission. It's not necessarily an admission of guilt. And now it's subjective into triggering an investigation. On top of that, because it says admissions or based on the judgment, admissions could come before there is a judgment, and then that could trigger an investigation and hinder due process. The second thing, it just came to me as Mr. Moretti was speaking, is there was a point in time when this council specifically did not take a letter on the record from the ACLU that was based on allegations. It was called conjecture. At this point, it's the same situation. These are just allegations. Just because we're putting into writing that we're not going to investigate until allegations were admitted or proven, doesn't mean we're not putting people's names into the record, just as Mr. Moretti has conveyed. And that could be harmful to the people who are presumably innocent until they're proven guilty. So I will not be in favor of this tonight. I agree that this is political theater as it stands right now. If someone is proven to have done something wrong, they should certainly be investigated. It's also very vague on how that investigation will happen, where the money will come from, who will choose the investigator. All of this is very vague and it serves its own purpose in my eyes, and therefore I will not be in support of it. Thank you.
Councilman Campopiano.
Thank you, Madam President. I agree with Director Moretti wholeheartedly, and I wouldn't want to be in his shoes. I know the people on the list, and I know them to be honorable, loving people, and I consider most of them my friend. I don't like to see their names dragged through the mud like this. Once the investigation is done, then we can see where we go with it there. If it extends to the next council, so be it. And I will be for it if these allegations come true. But right now, I cannot vote yes for this, so thank you.
Councilman Ferry.
Thank you. I'm not recalling exactly when it was or what it was, and I don't want to go too far off what's on the agenda, but I think someone sitting on this council right now was once dragged through the mud on an accusation for something that he or she didn't do. So, and that was brought forth by people that are in this room right now, some of the people that are in this room right now. So let's not weigh that direction. What I want to say is, if nothing happened, okay, if nothing happened, then what's the problem with the resolution? It doesn't accuse anybody of doing anything. It doesn't say anybody did anything wrong. Okay? It's not a political football right now because there is no election. There was an election going on and I was asked about this. It was only because I was asked. And all I ever stated was the truth. He took the car without a title, drove it without it being registered, and there were some accusations being made in the lawsuit that we are putting on this resolution that are just saying, hey, if something went wrong, then it should be investigated. No one's being accused of anything. And I would like to become a co-sponsor of this resolution, if that would be okay with you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Haroyan.
I would vote in favor of this tonight simply because I was that person that's name was put under a black cloud and sent to the state police. Myself personally, I was relieved because I never heard from the state police and I knew I did nothing wrong. And I believed the other two people that's name got dragged through the mud would have never done anything wrong. And it was a layer of protection that was done. This is edited, so it says, should the allegations of the plaintiff be admitted or proven, then voting on this tonight states only if something is proven or admitted. I am getting constituent calls all weekend since this started. They want to know what's going on. I owe it to my constituents. Yes, I am friends with some of the people in this lawsuit named. This is a layer of protection for them, I feel. So I'll be voting in favor of it.
Last Councilman Donegan.
Thank you, Council President. As I said in the Finance Committee meeting, like some of you have said now, I have a good relationship with many of the people, if not all of the people that are named in this in the complaint that was filed by Mr. Broccoli. I want this to turn out where the allegations are false. I don't wish any evil or ill on anyone named here. I hope they are proven and exonerated of any and all wrongdoing. I wouldn't want that to be the case here in our city. The way that I view this as from sitting in my seat with the vote is the question that's asked in this resolution is, if someone admits to doing something wrong, if someone admits to using their seat within city government, whether elected or appointed or hired improperly, should they be investigated? And as we've heard, I think there's unanimous agreement. The answer is yes, that if someone uses their position in city government to do wrong, should they be investigated? The answer is yes. I cannot control when that happens. My time on the city council is numbered. I've got, what do we have, 5 weeks left, Chris? 5 weeks. I can't control when this is decided. What I can control is how I vote, and my vote is yes. If someone does something wrong with it, through their seat within city government, should that be investigated? I think yes. I hope that it doesn't come to that. And I don't think it will come to that, but if found guilty or admitted, yes, it should be investigated. That's all I'll have to say.
just going to take a quick break because of the clerk. That's all. Just give me 2 seconds here. A family emergency for a moment or maybe longer. So thank you, Mr. DeMayo, for filling in as clerk. Back to city business. Do any other council members wish to be heard? Councilman Wall.
Thank you, Council President. I was not planning to speak on this evening. This is a delicate, awkward, embarrassing situation. And when I hear the director speak, listen, I've known the director for a number of years. I know him as an honest person. I've known the mayor for a number of years and also Mr. Malay for a number of years. I've known them as honest people. And I would like to say that just my knowing them over the years is enough. But unfortunately, in this situation that I have been asked questions about over the course of the last couple of months, it's kind of taken on a life of its own. As it was alluded to before, this is in the courts. It's in the courts for a reason. And hopefully at the end of this, we find the truth. And hopefully it's a positive truth for the people who are named here. And that is truly what I hope. But should it not go that way, I think this resolution is a good thing. And I think it is good that it says, should the allegations be admitted or proven? That's an important point. That if they are not proven, then this doesn't really exist at all. It's not important. So I will be voting in favor of it tonight. And it is a black eye that's been festering for a while, and I feel it's going to fester a little longer, as long as this case, until there is a resolution to this. And that's about all I have to say.
Thank you, Councilman Wall. Now that all council members have been heard, I would like to say with respect to this resolution that if anyone has not yet read the resolution, I encourage you to read it. It's not lengthy. It's barely a page and a half, and it is factual. There is a complaint that no one in this room asked to be filed against the mayor and other city employees. The allegations in that complaint are serious allegations. It is a verified complaint. That is a term used within the complaint itself. It is already public record because that is how our court system works. And city expenses, legal expenses, are currently being utilized to defend this lawsuit. No one in this room asked for this to happen. No one in this room wants this, to quote a colleague, black eye on the city. But we cannot shirk away from our responsibility to answering to the public with these allegations currently pending. No one in this room has made claims or assertions that what is being alleged is true. And I don't think there's a single person in this room that's sitting here thinking that they want these allegations to be true. No one does. I look forward to, if everything turns out to be as stated this evening by Director Moretti, that there are people in here named that don't even belong. There is a quick and speedy method of dismissal that can easily be handled by their attorneys to remove them from this suit. There are other legal recourses. And all this resolution is saying, again, is it's setting forth the complaint, the allegations in the complaint, and that they are allegations. And if they are proven to be true or they are admitted, then the council may conduct an independent investigation. Nowhere in there is anything partisan. It is an independent investigation. And the council at that time will take that up. And we can sit here and say, we only have 5 more weeks, but a lot can happen in 5 weeks. And I know for myself, and I believe it's true for pretty much all of my colleagues, no one in this room called a press conference to discuss this. No one takes any pleasure in being in this situation, but we cannot shirk away from our responsibility. And the mayor has chosen to speak publicly about this repeatedly. And each time that he spoke about it, it raised more questions with constituents and with us. He has openly stated that he drove a vehicle without a title, without being registered, and there is evidence of city plates. This photograph showing the city plates on there, while he knew it wasn't registered, whether for a short trip, a long trip, doesn't really matter. The other allegations of using city resources as part of this lawsuit, we as a council are not privy to that information. We know nothing. We respect the legal process. This resolution states as much, and we look forward to the parties being exonerated as part of that lawsuit and not having to expend funds for an independent investigation, nor to have the black eye. But be assured, if they turn out to be proven true or admitted, then the residents of this city, they deserve to have the answers. At this time, the clerk can please take the roll.
I'll take the roll.
Sure, thank you.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
No.
Councilwoman Horayan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
No.
Councilman Paplaskas,
No.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Resolution passes. Next up, Councilman Donegan, you may continue as Chair of Finance. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Lastly, we have a resolution designated the entire available unexpended and unencumbered balance of the American Rescue Act, ARPA, restricted receipt account for expenditure. This is sponsored by Council President Marino and Mayor Hopkins. This was recommended for approval by the Finance Committee, and I would urge passage this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Donegan.
Thank you, Council President. I would just like to say I appreciate the efforts of the Council President, of the mayor's, the mayor's staff, as well as Finance Director Zadelis, and all involved to come to a place to resolve this, these funds in a way that is something that I think there's something within this agreement that everyone can say that's going to help residents of the city of Cranston. So I appreciate your efforts to come to a bipartisan agreement on this. Thank you.
Do any other council members wish to be heard? Last call. Thank you, Councilman Donegan. And I know that I, for one, am relieved that the ARPA funds will not be wasted. This is free money that's going to benefit the residents of the city of Cranston. I think all of us can always say, myself included, that, you know, I wish the money were spent on something else. You know, there are so many needs throughout the city and so many qualifying categories. But, you know, this settlement relative to this issue serves the citizens well, because it resolves this issue, even though the council was very confident in their ability to be victorious should the issue have gone to trial. Trial would never have occurred before year's end. And this allows us to utilize the ARPA funds in a way that will benefit the city of Cranston. At this time, Mr. Verdecchia, if you can take the roll. Thanks.
You want me to do it, Rose?
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horayan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, thank you, Councilman Donegan. Next up, We have Public Works. There's nothing being reported out of that committee. We do have Ordinance Committee, and I understand Councilwoman Haroyan is pinch hitting for Council Vice President Vargas as Chair of Ordinance.
Okay, I did not know that, but we will go ahead with it. All right, ordinance for the closure of the westerly end of Honeysuckle Drive at the intersection with Phoenix Ave pursuant to Title 12.04 of the Code of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Streets and Sidewalks Generally, sponsored by Mayor Hopkins and Councilman Campopiano, recommended for approval by the Audience Committee, November 14th. A vote may be taken.
Thank
Motion
you,
to approve.
Councilwoman Haroyan. Yep.
Second.
That came out of committee as approved, and we've got a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion from council members? Right, there being none, clerk, if you can please take the roll. Thank you.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Haroyan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council President Reno.
Yes.
Ordinance 102403, an amendment to the Title 10, Chapter 12, Section 210 of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Thorough Trucking Prohibited on Certain Streets, sponsored by Councilwoman Renzulli, recommended for approval by the Ordinance Committee that met on November 14th, 2004. A vote may be taken.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Haroyan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council President Reno.
Yes. Thank you, Councilwoman Haroyan, for doing that on the fly.
Okay. 102403,
Oh,
ordinance.
no, you're all set. You did. You're good. You're done. Thank you. All right. We have public comment now for undocketed items. If there's anyone in chambers or on Zoom who wishes to be heard on any undocketed matters, please state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments limited to 4 minutes. We'll start first with in chambers. If anyone wishes to be heard on any undocketed matters, please step up. There being no one in chambers that wishes to be heard on any undocketed, oh, we do, we have someone, okay.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Carol Cooney, 8 Eva Lane. And I wanted to talk a little bit tonight about the fire that we had last week on the 18th. I have some great concerns over how it began. We saw it somewhere around 10:30 at night. It was all in the woods behind our house and the lawn beautician's area. The concern is the mulch piles that are like right next to the property line. They just seem to ignite. Fire trucks came, they worked, they did an unbelievable job. Thank God the wind direction was going towards 295. But I actually took photos of the night of as well as the morning after, so that you perhaps could see. Those photos were from our deck in our backyard and very scary because if the wind was going, towards us, that whole side of Eva Lane, the houses would have gone up. I don't know if it's possible to have some kind of an ordinance to prevent that height of a mulch pile. Not only one, like if you could see during the day, the piles are very, very high. There had to be like 4 to 5 mulch piles all the way to 295. I don't believe mulch piles should be next to woods, let alone residential areas as well. So I'm speaking tonight, and I know my neighbors also are here, but this went on through the night, this fire, and we're very grateful that it turned out okay, but I think we need to think about how to prevent this going forward. We need to have a safer area. I get it. He's a landscaper. He needs to have his mulch piles, but I don't think they should be next to the trees, next to residential. And I identified exactly where they were. So when you look at the photos, maybe it'll make a little bit more sense. One of those photos, I think it was photo number 4, it just showed it engulfed. And it was the scariest thing because everybody, we go to bed early on our street, 10:30. And it was my last look out the window, and then the phone started ringing with my my neighbor calling and getting everybody out of their house. Firefighters are telling us to evacuate. What happens if I didn't take one last look out the window? I just want you to look at the safety of the situation. I hope those photos display. I'm not a professional photographer, but I did the best that I could. And I do appreciate everyone, taking a look at this.
Great Patton, 684 Natick Ave. I am also in the same neighborhood, and I appreciate Carol's explanation of what happened. I want to put a slightly different perspective on it. The concern that we've had in this drought has certainly been intense. This is a pretty unprecedented. At the same time, as someone who is a farmer, I can tell you that piles of dry anything are able to combust in any weather. To give you a very sort of tangible example of that, as a farm, we cannot store one season's worth of hay for our animals because insurance will not cover you because it is a fire risk. So now translate that to what Carol talked about. We're talking sort of 3 stories high piles of leaves and mulch. So the risk is there at any time of year, not simply in drought time. And as a neighborhood, we have had concerns about this. We have tried to get some of the things addressed with the owners. That hasn't happened. This is a serious thing, and it isn't just because of the drought. And Carol is correct. If the wind had been going in any other direction, there are houses on every single other side. It did shut down 295 for a bit, but that was so little compared to what could have happened in our neighborhood. So I hope you will hear her on this.
Good evening. I'm Linda Hughes. I own the property at 7 Eva Lane in Cranston for 42 years. Looking at the mulch piles, it's very common for us to drive by and see smoke coming out of them all year long because it combusts in there and it lets the smoke come out. So this was something that was just going to happen. Just give it enough of time and it would burst into flames. Firemen have been there before because it has caught fire over the years. This is an area with lots of houses, lots of families, lots of children that live around there. And it's not safe for anyone with these mulch piles that 20, 30 feet up in the air. So I would like to see the city do something about this and to look at the safety of the houses and the people. As it was already said, 295 on both sides were closed down. And when you have firemen coming to your house and telling you to get out, there's a thing about a brush fire. This was a mulch fire, different. Thank you.
No one else in chambers wishes to be heard at this time. Then moving on to Zoom.
There is no public comment.
Thank you. I would like, two things to be noted. That fire occurred November 18th into the 19th, that evening into the Tuesday. The timing of it is why it's not on this agenda this evening. But I have already reached out to the Chair of Safety Services and Licensing and the clerk to ask them to place this matter of the fire at 460 Natick Avenue on the agenda for safety services relative to these concerns. I live not far from this area as well, so I really do understand and take your concerns to heart. And that meeting will occur on December 2nd. And hopefully we will have some answers. I'm sure we won't have all the answers we want, and we can address it at that time. I would like to take a motion to accept into the record the photographs that Ms. Cooney provided to the council.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Cooney, is it okay if we keep those photographs? Okay, thank you. Okay. Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council President Reno.
Next this evening, we have election appointment of city officials. We have the reappointment of Mr. Bakari to the Juvenile Hearing Board as alternate number 2 for the term December 1, 2024 through December 1, 2027. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan.
Yes.
Councilman Campiano.
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council President Reno.
Yes. Next, we have under executive communications, the legal expense analysis for the period of July 1 through November 19, 2024. Do any council members have any questions? Questions, comments? Nope. Okay, moving on, we have under my council president communications, just a reminder of the annual Veterans Food Donation Drive in support of Operation Stand Down Rhode Island, November 18th through November 30th. There are collection boxes at all of our Cranston libraries, the fire stations, and the police station. And I look forward to making that delivery after that time, as I know that, as I've said before, those donations are very much needed, particularly after Thanksgiving. So we appreciate the generosity of everyone relative to those donations. Next up, we have under Councilmember Communications, Councilwoman Horoyan.
Hello. Director Moretti, to come up here. Thank you. All right. My question is, the HUD approval, when was the last HUD application submitted? Do we know that? Or can you email me the date?
The application itself goes back, but there's all different phases to this. Probably the last document submission was last Friday, I believe it was.
Who submits though?
That was submitted by the CDBG office director Tomasiella did that.
The Budlong Pool and the opening date still the same?
It looks as if yes, and it looks as if hard construction should begin the week of December 17th. It is pending that final public input, but it's not anticipated that there'd be any changes from that.
I know in the past you said we're gonna utilize some of the city employees to help in some areas of this. Will that create overtime for them that's not scheduled in the budget?
No.
No overtime? Okay.
That work has been completed on the outside. There may be some limited interior work to the pool house. but certainly it would be during regular work hours if that were the case.
My third request is just if there's anything public. As you know, I saw something published and I didn't know about it. Please, can I be included since the pool is in Ward 2?
Yes,
Going forward,
and
thank
hopefully
you.
there's no more of those, that process will be over soon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilwoman Haroyan. Next, we have introduction of new business. I'm going to ask that the new business matters be taken as a block.
Motion to take them as a block?
Second,
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan.
yes.
Councilman Donegan.
Yes.
Councilman Campiano.
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes. Next, I'll entertain a motion to take the block and move these matters to their respective committees.
So moved.
Second,
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Yes.
Councilman Horoyan.
yes.
Councilman Donegan.
Yes.
Councilman Campiano.
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes. Next, we have executive session. At this time, I'm seeking a motion to go into an executive session relative to Rhode Island General Laws, Section 42-46-5, subsection A, subsection 2, pertaining to collective bargaining.
So moved.
Second,
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan.
yes.
Councilman Donegan. Councilman Campiano.
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes. Okay. At this time, the council is now in executive session. We will go in the conference room and leave chambers. Okay, now, do I have a motion to seal the minutes from, motion to come out of executive session first?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Orion. Yes. Councilman Donegan. Councilman Campiano. Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall.
Yes.
Council President Reno.
Yes, and now I'll entertain a motion to seal the minutes of executive session.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Orion.
Yes.
Councilman Donegan. Councilman Campiano. Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall.
Yes.
Council President Reno.
Yes, okay, at this time, entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Have a good night.